Morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is, wherever you are right now. Thank you for tuning in to the Conversations with Dr. Don show. The show is produced and broadcast from Portland, Oregon, USA. For your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of 1-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people, like most of you out there, about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals, and about whatever it is we've decided to talk about. And we're going to talk with my guest this evening, Joe. Tell me your full name again?
Joe Meyer.
Joe Meyer, of course, yeah. How you feeling?
I feel good, thank you.
Now, we're in the studio now. We did the first part 1 this evening here, and we're doing part 2 because we have so much more to talk about, so we're going to make 2 segments of this interview, all right? So, we'll do an abbreviated version of the bio segment about who you are, because some people may see this second part, this part 2, and we want them to know a little more about you so that it's not totally out of the blue, that suddenly we're asking questions and you're answering. So, because I have not told the viewers who I am for a long, long time, so I'll share with you who I am. This is the part of you that's who you are, and now who I am. Okay. I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, of red, white, and black Roman Catholic parentage on December 26, 1928. Today I am a-religious and accepting of all others. I'm a retired PhD clinical psychologist and present-day television broadcast journalist. I'm the 12th of 12 children, am married, and am the father of 5 daughters by a first marriage. Politically, I'm a progressive populist activist, still learning how to live lovingly, A few of my heroes include Jesus, Gandhi, MLK, and any other fellow human who is currently living lovingly. And if I can follow in these characters' footsteps and get better than I am at that, then my life has been successful, and it is successful, and I am getting better and still learning how to be nice. Mama said to me, boy, there's only one philosophy you need: be nice. And that's true. It all boils down to that, be nice, yeah. So that's who I am. Now let's get back to you again. Now, I've asked you these questions in the first part of the show, in part 1. In part 2 now, from your memory, can you think of what the questions I asked you, or you want to summarize overview of who you are, your education, or shall I ask some questions again?
I was born in Chicago, Illinois in 1962.
Okay. Yeah.
I was the 3rd of 6 children. I went to Catholic school until the 2nd grade. And then our family quit the church. We moved to Evanston, Illinois, first suburb north of Chicago, where the schools are excellent.
What church did you quit?
Queen of Angels.
Catholic?
Catholic.
So, go on.
Moved a half a dozen miles to the north to the first suburb north of Evanston, where the schools are excellent and racially mixed. That was a new thing for me as well. I went to 3rd through high school in Evanston, played sports. I only loved sports when I was a boy, and then I loved physics next, and I went for a bachelor's and a master's and a PhD in physics. And then I got married and had kids. I had 2 postdocs, one in State College, Pennsylvania.
2 postdocs?
2 postdocs, no waiting.
Woo.
The second one was in Ulm, Germany, where I learned to speak some German. My son was born in Germany. I was quite amazed after he was born. We started getting a check from the government, and they called it Kindergeld.
In German.
And we got it in German money, too. Anyway, I thought that was nice. In fact, the whole birthing experience was really different than the second child's. We had a Duma come to our house both before and after the birth, and made it a much different process.
What does a Duma do for you?
Duma?
Never mind.
Well, they come and prepare you for it, so I sort of learned how to be a coach the best I could, although I don't really know if I did much in that regard, but sort of what to expect. And then she's there during the birth to answer any questions and to assist Christine in pushing and telling her to keep pushing and all that kind of pushing stuff.
What was the difference between the first birth and the second birth?
Well, the first one was more in a kind of a relaxed setting. It wasn't really a hospital, so it was much less hospitalized. And the second one was in a U.S. birth in Chicago, and it was hospitalized.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor was Herr Doctor, and he was in charge. And in Germany, for example, my wife would often get up and walk around and kind of try to take some control over the process. In Chicago, she was on her back. She popped that kid out just fine in any case.
Pop that kid out. I like that.
Yes, she did.
And we talked about your education before, and your partner, your wife now, is a professional.
My wife's a professional architect.
Mm-hmm.
She works in town here. And,
In town being in Portland, Oregon.
In Portland, Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about the political persuasion. You convinced me that you're a Trumpite, and no, you didn't really. We're going to talk about Trump before the evening is over. Yeah, yeah. What is the difference between sympathy and empathy and compassion?
Oh, my.
I saved that one for you. Sympathy, what is that?
Sympathy seems like you're looking down on someone to a certain extent. I think you're in a different category, I would say, in a way, or you're not going to, you're removed, I would say. Sympathy is a removed state,
Mm-hmm.
compared to empathy, at least.
Mm-hmm. What is empathy?
Empathy is seeing someone else suffer and not liking it,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to do something about it.
And doing something about it, right?
I said wanting to do something about it, however.
And compassion, what's that?
How is compassion different from empathy? Don't know. Is it different?
Mm-hmm. Subtle differences. Anyhow, let's move on.
Okay.
Memberships in political, social, or civic organizations. Do you have any memberships that we didn't ask you about in part one?
I'm a member of the Eastside Democratic Club.
Eastside Democratic Club, that's in Portland.
It's in Portland.
Why that organization? What's that organization about?
Well, they were looking for someone who had nothing to do Tuesday afternoons.
And you're still goofy.
So I became secretary.
Yeah.
And now I'm secretary of the Eastside. I think I went there a couple of times just on some probably emails from David Delk, and I liked the group. I liked their approach of educating themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if I were going to criticize it on TV, I would say I wish they were kind of a little more active in a way or something.
Sure.
I think it's really mostly educational, and that is the most important thing. And it's social, and that's the most important thing.
Sure.
And it might be a little bit fun to stretch our wings in some other ways, possibly.
Uh-huh. David Delk, you mentioned that in part one. Why do you mention David Delk?
Why did I mention David Delk? Well, you were asking me about my affiliations, and I said Eastside Democratic Club. And at the time, David was president, probably, of the Eastside Democratic Club, and active in a lot of ways. So I probably got an email from him inviting me to Eastside Democratic Club. I went a couple times. The third time I went, they asked me to be secretary. And it was,
Next month you'll be back.
and I enjoy taking notes and typing them up. It's fun for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you find David interesting?
I do. I don't know him
David
well
Delk.
personally. We meet the last Tuesday of every month for our Agenda Club meeting at Prescott Cafe, where we enjoy a breakfast. And I
On
see
the
him.
east side of the river? And
It's right next to where we meet. Actually, it's right next to the church we meet on Prescott.
Uh-huh.
And then we, of course, meet at the meeting. But and other than that, I don't see him that often outside of our meetings.
Too bad you haven't hung around with David Delk for a long time, because he's a delightful human being. There's very special regard for him. Anyhow, enough for David.
Good. I have time still.
And so where did we leave off? We talked about in the first hour, you talked about Joe, the Somali guy. Mo, pardon me. Mo is shy. And you want to say a few words about that before we go into talking about Teresa Rayford?
Well, again, the docudrama Mo is Shy.
Mo is shy.
Mo is Shy documents the travails of Mohammed and his encounters with the FBI. He was basically a naive kid. The FBI smoked him up quite a lot, told him a lot of stories about his heroic life. If only he would do these few tasks. He did the few tasks. It's my contention that he did not try to detonate a bomb at all. It's my contention that there were two white vans, and the white van that he was driven to Pioneer Square contained a lot of marijuana of the strain called sour diesel, and not a bomb. He thought he was making a big marijuana deal, and the FBI tricked him that way and planted a bomb at the Pioneer Squares.
The FBI planted the bomb, you think?
I think so. I think he backed out. I think he backed out of the idea.
But there wasn't really a bomb. There was.
It was a fake bomb.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a lot of fakes going on.
Why were they doing it? Why were the FBI doing that?
If you arrest 10 kids and their skin is very dark, you get to go to Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they do it.
You think there's racism involved?
In a way, it's more opportunism, really. I don't think they care one way or the other. It's just more likely conviction in a way. So I think it's a cold racism in a way. And possibly not a personal, although I don't know if it's not a personal one, but I would say it's more of a calculated advantage from my perspective.
Because he's Somali, is he, what's his religion?
His religion would then probably be Muslim.
Muslim.
And that came out
Could
during
that
the
be
trial.
part of what's going on in this mix?
It's possible. It's possible. Perhaps there's a checklist. Dark skin, check. Golden name, Mohammed Mohammed.
Oh man, boom.
Check. Muslim, check. And I think the line he crossed, actually, because there are a lot of people like that, obviously, was he wrote for a magazine called Jihad Recollections.
Boy, that name is, whoa.
Exactly. It sold well to the jury. In fact, on the cover of one of the editions, one of the 2 editions he wrote in, had the very face of Osama bin Laden on it. Yes, the prosecution loved to show that picture.
So he got 35 years.
I think so.
And you're still working on getting some relief from that?
I've talked to the defense attorney, and they're concentrating on technical appeals. And I think they don't really want to hear wild-eyed Kebu ideas about marijuana.
Yeah.
You can see that.
And
because I think there is a technical path. I think the first time the FBI met Mohammed in Corvallis, they had no real reason or excuse to be there except they were monitoring the kid, which is what I think the defense is contending was illegal.
Kid, how old is he?
He was 18 at the time. He must be 20,
yeah.
22 now or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was your time at Cebu when you had been there for a while. Yeah.
I think so. I think that was after Occupy now. So I'd done my first live reporting from Occupy, so I kind of lost my fear of the mic to a certain extent because I was doing 4 hours a day and no one was listening. So
Occupy? Say a few words about Occupy.
Well, Occupy happened, I guess, in response or in conjunction with Occupies all over the country. We had one in Portland here that lasted quite a while, I think. I stayed over in camp for 2 nights as a Cebu reporter and thought it was a pretty darn interesting experiment there.
What does that mean, Occupy? It's an organization, a movement? Occupying what?
It was always one of those things where it was leaderless and everythingless.
What was your goal?
I think the first goal was just to bring attention to the division of wealth in this country.
Division of wealth.
I think it was spurred in a large part by the bailout of Wall Street, for example. Who wanted to get together and say, hey, that's not fair, what can we do about it?
So we should do something for the ordinary citizenry or the poor people rather than for Wall Street.
I think a lot of people were hurt by that.
You have a prejudice against Wall Street, against wealth? Don't you want to be rich one day?
I fear for my frontal lobe. I think I'm rich enough.
Yeah.
I'm a thousandaire.
Rich in what sense are you?
If I'm thirsty, I lift up a knob like this and water comes out and it's pure and clean. I drink it and it's good. And if I want to go to bed, I get in this nice soft mattress and I put a cover over me.
You're talking in terms of wealth and physical comfort. Is there another rich that you can talk about that you find important for you?
Other than that,
yeah.
I guess I'm saying I don't need much more than that. That's pretty good. What else would I do with my money?
How about satisfaction in your existence, in your being? Can you be rich in that regard?
Oh, I could be richer in that regard, yes, for sure.
How can you do that?
Oh, I think it's kind of a continual process of tearing down egos, tearing down things we've learned, things that have been implanted on us. I think we kind of live in a sick world in a way. I mean, our politics is only a mirror of the world we live in. So I was born in a racially divided world. I was born in a world full of kind of anger, and the only thing important really is what the Bear score is.
Okay. All right, let's talk about Teresa Rayford. Something happened with her. You want to talk about that? And you reported on it when you were at KBOO.
Right. This is another trial I covered. This was at Multnomah County. Teresa was arrested at an event commemorating the 1-year killing of Michael Brown, police killing of Michael Brown.
This was just a couple of years ago, right?
Yes, a couple of years ago now. So this is probably 2 or 3 years ago now, because the trial was a year ago now, and that was a year before that. So maybe 3 years out. Anyway, Teresa and others organized a bunch of people to create some art at 82nd and Division. And part of that process was taking over the intersection for 4.5 minutes to commemorate the 4.5 minutes when Michael Brown lay dying in the street.
Mm-hmm.
They made their protest. They stayed in the street about 7 minutes, getting in and out. After that event was over, everyone else went back to the sidewalk. Teresa and a few other activists were walking up and down in the street, just off the curb, keeping people on the sidewalk. A few minutes after that, the police assembled on the other side of the street, came over in formation, and singled out Teresa Rayford and arrested her and took her back across the street and put her in a car and arrested and charged her with disorderly conduct. It may not sound like a very exciting case. In fact, the prosecution said it was rather mundane. She was just standing in the street, and that's called obstruction of justice. She was blocking traffic.
In the street, yeah.
Blocking traffic in a public way, that's a crime. What's the big deal about it? And that's kind of what I thought the first day of trial too. And you know, if I march in the street, I kind of think I'm taking my chances to a certain extent. So if I get arrested, what's the story? And I found out it was much more important than that because of the way she was singled out, and that came out through the course of the trial.
What was the way she was singled out? What was the way she was singled out?
The way she was singled out?
What is it made?
Maybe you think she was singled out? I think it was part the police testimony and part was the video that the defense provided. The video, for example, shows the police organizing on, I believe, the north side of the street and specifically targeting Teresa. And the police on the stand said, oh, we're just going to go over and tell people to get on the sidewalk, and whoever didn't get back on the sidewalk, we were going to arrest. That was their story. Another thing that was suspicious to me was the sergeant in charge kind of changed his story on the stand. His first story was he was waiting, he was on patrol when he got a call that people were blocking the intersection at 82nd and Division. So he came on the scene and assembled his troops and did what sergeants do. It came out on cross-examination that he'd been staking out the group since early that morning. For more than 3 hours, he was staking out the group. And then he contended to the defense attorney that he happened to leave just a few minutes before the protesters took the street. And then he drove away from the intersection, got the call, and came back. So he kind of changed his story a little bit. And the arresting officer, whose name was Susan Billard, I believe, testified that she came on the scene, discovered the protesters, observed them for the 7 minutes they were in the street, and talked to someone and said, well, how long is this going to last? Oh, it's going to only last a few more minutes, fine. So everyone was fine, no one was going to get arrested. But then all of a sudden, the four assembled on the north side of the street and marched directly over to arrest Teresa Rayford.
Why do you think the real reason is they arrested her?
Well, she's asserting her rights. I think it's as simple as that.
People assert their rights all the time, and they're not arrested for what seems like nothing terribly important. Is it because of her race? Is it because she's black? Is there racism?
Yeah, there's racism. I think there's racism because she's black and the people she's educating are black. I think both those things are true.
Mohammed is black too, isn't he?
Yeah, I guess I can't say it's racist. What I know is that the Portland police don't like it if you don't obey them right away.
Oh, of course. But is there racism in Portland? In the governing?
I have not experienced racism myself in Portland.
I didn't ask you what's your experience. I'm talking about your opinion about the police department in Portland, do you think it has racist behaviors? Do you think they single out black people more than white people, generally speaking?
From what I've heard, yes, I would think that's true.
Okay.
I think that's true. And also, from what I've seen, it's more about obeying than the color of your skin, although I'm probably not completely accurate about that. I think perhaps their perception of obeying, I'm just guessing here, is different based on their perception of that guy's race or skin color.
Is there racism going on in America and the way the police behaves across America today?
I think there can be no doubt about that.
Oh, okay. For a while there, I was wondering if you were doubting.
I'm just trying to be a scientist about it. I don't have any direct evidence of these things. However, in aggregate,
you have an opinion. You have a view.
Oh, opinion? Oh, really?
That's why you're.
Oh, wait a minute. You're interviewing me. I can just say my opinion. Hell yes, there's racism in Portland Police. Are you joking me? Are you kidding me? It's the most racist organization.
Stop playing like you're like a lawyer or a trial.
I know,
for
exactly.
God's sakes.
Well, I thought I was the reporter there. I have to be objective. I don't have to be objective. Yes, there's definitely racism, and I think it, to a certain extent, it's just the locker room attitude to a large extent, but I think it also comes from the FBI's influence through the Joint Terrorism Task Force. I think they bring in a certain culture, and that culture is obey. That culture is take advantage of your environment, basically. Mm-hmm. If you know you can more likely get a conviction from a man of color, maybe you're more likely to arrest that man. I think that kind of stuff happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what do you think of the Trump administration, what it's doing for our country, his presidency, and the people he's surrounded himself with?
Well, my mom said, if you don't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I don't know. I think we get what we deserve, don't we, Don? I don't know.
Do you think that the Trump administration and his governing is going to be helpful or healthy or good for the American people?
Again, those things that are so far away, I can't guess. Sometimes I think that, okay, with the two-party system, kind of the more normal two-party system, and Trump kind of got us away from that, was a train going 1,000 miles an hour towards a cliff. Uh-huh. And their only solution was to go faster. Was that their only solution? We're going to grow our way out of it. We're just going to do more of the same. That's always a solution. Mm-hmm. Trump took us off the track, and it's a bumpy ride, and we may all die. However, we're not going 1,000 miles an hour towards that cliff anymore. Maybe not the same cliff anyway.
Well, it seems that from a number of administrations, a number of years, we've had the two parties you're talking about, as though that's the normal and that's the ideal, as though that's an accepted fact, when evidence shows that the two parties are both beholden to Wall Street and the super rich. So maybe we should think beyond, outside of the box, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're reluctant to say that you don't like what Trump's about or unhappy with what he's doing or where he's taking our country. Is that true?
No, I was shocked when he was elected, for sure. I think in the short term we're going to be much, much worse off. Uh-huh. In the long term, we're not going 1,000 miles an hour towards that same cliff anymore, which was sure environmental destruction. Now, I think there's a much higher chance that we're going to die of nuclear war sooner. However, maybe we're more motivated to completely change that two-party system. I just don't know how to break that two-party system.
Have two-party systems being broken before?
I don't know. I don't. We talked about that before. I don't think a democracy has worked before, so that's what we're up against. I think that's what we're up against. Yeah. Humans haven't figured out democracy on this scale.
Oh, that's a guessing by saying democracy doesn't work or won't work or can't work.
No, I don't say it can't work.
It's human beings. That's what they're doing with these systems you're talking about.
Exactly. We haven't figured it out yet.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason why we can't figure it out.
Who's the we you're talking about? We figuring it out.
You and me.
I've figured it out.
What is it?
Have you?
No.
Yes, you have. I think ordinary folk who have a modicum of intelligence and learning are aware that what's causing the situation to occur in our society and our culture today, just like the extreme Trump supporters have figured out what's causing it. But the difference between us and those people on the other side, or they're given different reasons for their plight and their unhappiness in their existence. And the people supporting Trump are told that it's because of those Muslims or foreigners or people who are crossing over the borders, and black people and brown people and people who are not Christian. And Trump is saying, yeah, this is what's going on. And because of the power of the system and the educational system and the media, then those people, that class of people is hearing this, is finding out, is believing that these are the reasons for their difficulty. And that's why Trump has such a big support. I'm on my soapbox now.
Yeah, I was looking for the solution in that, the solution part there. I was waiting for that part.
The solution is what the solution always is, seems to be, revolution. Revolution.
Okay, what's that look like?
It's the same way it always looked, where people take to the streets and shut the system down, where they can't make any more money and they can't keep acquiring more wealth because they're inadequate, without increasing their power and money, because it's the only thing that gives them any worth. So
yeah,
I'm interviewing myself now.
Yeah. Well, I hope we don't have to. I hope we don't have to go in the streets and make the streets bloody for change. Oh, I don't.
That's how it's always happened, isn't it? The American Revolution, for example. So I'm suggesting that revolution, insurrection is in the cards, as it always has been historically. And I want to be a part of it. And I think, do you think that we're going to go through a full term for Trump and there won't be a revolution or a revolt or something of that nature? Do you think he's going to complete at least one term?
Are you making a betting proposition?
I'm asking you, do you think that he's going to be one-term president or not?
I think he won't make it through his first term, although I don't know why I would want to speculate on something so removed from my world.
Yeah, we live in it. Oh, Jesus, come on, Joe.
Local politics. What do we have to explore? Why are we talking about this man?
Because I thought you would be interested, because
all right.
You said that you were interested in your activism beyond just local. Of course, you're primarily focused on local, yeah. But you've got a big frontal lobe. And
compassion, full of compassion.
Humankind's being better and being more loving toward each other. And I got to look at the contributing factors why people are the way that they are now. Maybe you don't want to look at it any further than you have so far, is because to guess at what the outcome will be, looking at it, is to have Trump be removed, and then Pence will take over, and we're on this treadmill.
Yeah, why do we want that?
Well, it's incremental revolution.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't even know what direction that step is, even if it is incremental.
Are you going to come? Are you going to go to the streets and march with me?
I'd love to march with you.
All right, let me ask you a few more questions. How about, when are we going to talk about ping pong? You said you really love ping pong. I can't imagine someone loving ping pong to want to talk about it on my show.
I love teaching ping pong.
Okay. How do you teach ping pong?
Well, I think I teach the way I learn, really. I think I just show what I've learned in a way. And I'm always learning, so my teaching is always changing too.
You've been doing it for a number of years.
I started at Reed teaching there 2015. And maybe a year before that, I was teaching at our local club, the Ambridge Table Tennis Club.
Mm-hmm. You've been in some serious competition?
Yeah, there are a lot of really good players in town. Table tennis is really an exciting sport.
During the break, you were talking about different styles, and the Chinese, Japanese version.
On my first day of, well, I guess when I was applying for the teaching job at Reed, I went to the athletic director and I said, okay,
Reed College is here in Portland.
Reed College in Portland, south side of Portland. Okay, Michael, I'm going to start with Japanese first grade technique, with the pronounced left foot stamp, both hands finishing up high like this. And then I'm going to move on to the Swedish-dominated 80s, and the great players there. And then the Taiwanese, both hands sweeping and finishing up with the modern. And he said to me, Joe, They're supposed to have fun. So that's why I like my job at Reed. My job is to have fun with young people within the context of learning ping pong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty good job for me.
And that's what you're teaching now at Reed?
That's what I'm teaching now at Reed. It's summer break now, but during the year, that's what I teach at Reed.
And that's a course that people get credit for?
Yeah, you're forced to take 2 years of PE at Reed College.
You are weird.
No, that's the truth.
With a PhD in physics. Yeah. All right. Do you have any more things that you have some opinions about, or shall I ask you some of my favorite questions?
I just feel like we can't communicate well about this whole idea of national politics. I just don't know what to say about that. I wish I could say something better about it. I mean, to a certain extent, my philosophy is you're supposed to love reality in a way. I mean, that's what Nietzsche teaches us, or Marcus Aurelius, for example. So we have this reality, and I'm trying to find a good thing to say about it, I guess.
And there's a reality that involves the cortex, neocortex. There's another part of us, I think the most important part of us, that's beyond what goes on here. It's what goes on in our gut, in our hearts, in our most inner sanctuary. That's what we live, we use this brain in service of our whole being, in service of feelings. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
The gut is the second brain. Even Parkinson's starts in the gut.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's it all about?
You already said it. You know what it's about. Just like your mama, my mama said, be nice.
Okay. Is this life all there is? Remember Peggy Lee's songs? Is this all there is? Remember that? You old enough to remember that. Is there a life after this?
One of my favorite philosophers, I came upon him late in life, is called Karl Popper.
Mm-hmm.
He had a theory of critical rationalism. And he would not allow into conversation things which were not provable.
And the control room is yelling at me now because they think we should stop and catch our breath. You ready for a break in there, Mr. Whoever? All right. And now I should tell you about the show you're watching now, in case you missed the opening of the show. And for the viewers who missed the opening of the show, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of 1-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like Joe here, and like most of you out there, about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals, and about whatever it is we decided to talk about tonight. And we've been talking about all sorts of things tonight, particularly your adventures with KBOO, the radio station here in Portland, Oregon, and your history and your life, and we'll just keep going.
My love of ping pong.
And your love of ping pong.
And distaste for national and international politics.
Uh-huh.
Or aversion, or I don't know if distaste is the right word.
And where did we leave off here? I had my list of questions that are driving you nuts. Oh, are humans living responsibly? I think we've covered that.
To whom?
To life. Responsibly to life, responsibly. What does responsible mean?
There's
an end result. If I'm living responsibly, then my life is okay and it has some value to me. If I'm living irresponsibly or not responsible, then I'm not sure. I'm unhappy, or there's something missing. Is the best way I can put it. Are we living responsibly as a whole?
Well, that's a good word. I like that word.
Darwin?
I think most people are not taking responsibility for themselves individually, and that yes, we'd all come a lot farther forward if we could manage to take that responsibility. And I think part of the problem is we feel powerless and are told we're powerless, and so it's easier maybe to hide from responsibility.
You think humans are powerless?
I think humans are powerful beyond measure, and the powerful beyond measure, powerful people who are the powers that be don't want us to think that.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do instead in response?
Tell people you're powerful beyond measure.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them every day.
Demonstrate it.
Demonstrate it through yourself as well.
Mm-hmm.
We had a poem we'd sing it. We'd have a dinner table around the table when the kids were small. I don't remember much of it. It was called "Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
Mm-hmm.
It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us."
Yes.
You know the rest.
Yes. Are nation states obsolete? What's happening now in the world with nation states? They're still at each other, they're still attacking each other, having wars.
It sounds like there's something better on the horizon or something. Is that what you mean? Or you have a better idea? Are they obsolete because there's a
world government?
Hybrid model coming out, or?
Where people get along, so-called nation states get along with each other such that they don't have a need to go to war and destroy each other.
It seems like the scale thing is really a fundamental problem with the humans. We like to be around about 150 other people. I think we can have a nice government in that kind of structure, and it seems like after agriculture that went away and we haven't figured out what to do next.
Mm-hmm.
We tried kings.
You keep pointing to my sign here.
We have figured out what to do next.
Be nice. It starts on an individual basis, yeah? Then my life has some meaning for me if I'm nice. And I think I told you the story earlier on in part one about what happened to me just a few days ago. I want to tell that story now while we're recording the show, because it's kind of unique awareness for me, if I may. My wife took her car into the car wash here in Portland, a big one, in Beaverton, and she wanted to have her floor mats cleaned because they look pretty scrungy, and she'd heard that they can really do a good job, and they did a good job, and they cleaned them with steam and all kinds of stuff. And she said I should go the next day and pick up her floor mats. And I went in the next day to pick up the floor mats, and she gave me the money to pay for the work. But then the guy who was going to collect the money and go get the floor mats for me saw the sign I was wearing. I wear signs, protest signs a lot. This sign said, "Be kind to even unkind people, they need it most." Well, then the guy who was managing stuff at the car wash saw that, and he reached down and he got a handful of $1 bills, about 9 or 10, I didn't count them, and he thrust them toward me, and I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, I'm giving you this." I says, what for? What? I don't get money for I wear signs to get money. And and we went back and forth a little bit, and finally, I was taken aback. What the hell is this? I don't expect this, you know? I've been wearing signs for all my life. Nobody offered me money for wearing a darn sign. My sign is protesting what's going on inside of me and what's going on with me. And finally, he convinced me. He looked me in the eye and he says, "I need you to take this money."
Nice.
And I let him, and there were a lot of people standing around watching this going on, and they were all amused and interested in how strange this was. And finally, I took the guy's money.
Nice.
And at that moment, something happened in me.
Yeah.
It was but a few seconds later, it occurred to me that in life anymore, I'll run across an occasional person like this. because it was more important for him to give me the money. This is the only way I could indicate he approved or he was connecting with me, and he did. And again, there's some people who are just being nice to be nice. And if I would just wait around and hang around and go in all sorts of circles, occasionally I'll bump into somebody who is nice and loving like that. And occasionally I recycle that event or that series of things, and I get to feel warm and fuzzy again because I'm waiting for the next time somebody does something like that.
Was it hard to take the money?
Until he convinced me that it was more important for him than for me to make him take the money back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was worried his frontal lobe was going to shrink. He said, look at this guy.
Yeah, so I like that story, and I'm going to linger on it for a while because it's really good. Yeah. Okay, nation states not obsolete.
What do I say about that? I guess that's a scale thing. And to say a world government, I think we have to figure it out on small scale and build up rather than try to figure it out all of a sudden magically at a large scale. That seems unlikely.
Have we ever had a world government that was really effective, such that we didn't have this class warfare that seems to never end, where the super rich need to get richer and richer and making ordinary citizens poorer and poorer? I don't think we've ever had this on Earth where human beings are occupying.
What's the path to that, though? I'm saying starting from the top and coming down seems like an unlikely scenario compared to nucleating a bunch of democratic institutions like Portland City Council and other local institutions, and then growing up that way.
Well, I was talking about nation states at that level, and I think we can reach a point of development, if I may, where we can say our people, by and large, are not going to try to destroy each other collectively through nation states, and we're going to get along and allow competition or disagreements to exist. We can't do away with that. But we can live together and take away this doomsday clock where we're moving closer and closer to midnight, where humankind and possibly all life on Earth is going to disappear. So I have to have these kinds of ideas, these kind of fantasies, in order to keep going. I got to move in that direction. I don't expect to find success in every instance where I'm looking at having things be better, have life be better for human beings.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd have to give up my reincarnation thought of becoming back as a bonobo. You familiar with the bonobos?
One of my favorite Kebu shows was the author of the book called Sex at Dawn, which was about evolution of human psychology, I guess, in a way. Or tried to deduce that from our physiology and from bonobos and chimps and other evidence. So I have some familiarity with the bonobos.
What do you think about bonobos?
I think they're a really interesting example compared to chimps. People didn't even know about bonobos until, I guess, fairly recently. They were called pygmy chimps or something, and they didn't realize that they were quite different, had a different culture and whatnot. I think what's important to know, sitting here as a primate called a human, is if you give a bunch of bananas, I mean a lot of bananas, to a bunch of chimpanzees, they'll fight over it. They'll get all bloody. And one guy will eat all the bananas and get a stomach ache. Who's happy there? What happens if you give a bunch of bananas to bonobos? You know, right?
Yeah.
You know. Say it, it's your show.
Yeah. So they eat bananas, and what else do they do?
Well, first they have an orgy, and then they share it evenly among the troop.
An orgy? You're naming things, heavens.
It was a technical term.
Yeah. That's a human. For them, they're having a good time. They are successful.
They'll have a brief encounter, a brief sexual encounter with almost everyone else in the troop, before they will share the bananas equally among them. So as humans, we can sit here and say, well, we are primates indeed, and I think we can choose what we do.
Well, there's a model for us to emulate.
Again, I think the Princeton study where the frontal lobe shrinks with lack of compassion points in one direction, the bonobos point in another direction.
Okay. I'll go for the bonobos. A real humane New World Order. Is there a global class struggle? We think we've covered that. What in life today gives you the most dissatisfaction, and what should we do about it? What goes on in the world today gives you the most satisfaction? Look at both sides of that coin.
Satisfaction?
Satisfaction or dissatisfaction? What's going on in the world today that gives you the most dissatisfaction in the world today?
Okay. Dissatisfaction, let me start with dissatisfaction. Get that out of the way.
Okay.
I'm dissatisfied if I don't have something cheerful to say.
Uh-huh.
I'm dissatisfied if I assume too much about somebody else, or if I say something that may hurt somebody, things like that.
That makes you dissatisfied.
Well, to the extent that where I want to improve. Again, it's not debilitating, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Areas where I want to improve, I don't know. If I miss a serve.
Let me ask you about people from history and see what you think of them.
I'm not going to know anybody.
You remember Hugo Chavez?
Yeah, I sure don't know much about him. He was
Kucinich? Dennis Kucinich?
Yeah, I guess he.
How about Bill Moyers?
He'd go in the hero. These guys are all heroes.
Mm-hmm. Howard Zinn? Malcolm X?
I think Malcolm X is, I don't know much about him, but I think he's profound in the arc of his life.
Mm-hmm. How about Cornel West?
Yeah, isn't he from Princeton? Maybe he was on that study.
He's a minister and he's profound. And you know William F. Buckley, remember him?
Sure. He's a pianist, wasn't he? In addition to.
No, he was a brilliant intellectual, right-winger.
Yeah.
And he was noted for his mannerisms when he was talking.
That's pretty good. I know exactly
Cornel
what
West is a black version of William F. Buckley, only he's for progressive left and a radical leftist, anyhow. North Korea, what's going to go on in North Korea?
I don't know. I was in Seoul just 2 years ago. I loved it.
Really? What were you doing in Seoul?
I loved it. Visiting my wife's family.
Uh-huh.
Her dad was born there. He came to this country and taught chemistry for many years at University of Oxford. So we went back. He has still a lot of cousins there. And I really enjoyed it. I couldn't believe it. It was fantastic. Everybody was very friendly. They all loved me because I have a rubbery face. I think a lot of people in Korea are meant to have kind of a more serious attitude or face.
Of course.
And I'm so goofy. They were laughing at me the whole time. I could have made money on the street corner if I had a hat.
Or wear a protest sign and get some money. Syria. Well, there's one. What are we going to do about Syria? What are humans going to do about Syria?
Sitting here in Portland, the best thing I can do about Syria right now is to make Don smile.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's my theory on that. It's just so
That's
far.
going to make things be better in Syria?
That's my only chance. What else can I do?
Talk about helplessness and hopelessness.
That's not hopeless. Are you
What
kidding me?
about the people behind the scenes?
Optimistic.
What about the deep state and the people behind the scenes who are arranging things such that Syria is being destroyed? We must do something about them. We must resist.
I remember I was at I think it was the East Side Democratic Club, and a guy walked in there with a sign around his neck.
That was probably me.
He said, "Be nice to mean people. They need it the most." So there you go. There's your answer right there.
Uh-huh.
Seems like I don't know what else to do. I mean, I think I really do believe that we ought to treat people in power as brain damaged and proceed from there. Mm-hmm. So when you ask me what I want to do about Syria, well, we can try to get someone elected to mayor of Portland who doesn't have brain damage. I think that's a very good step. And the brain damage I'm talking about is the brain damage of empathy from having too much wealth for too long. Mm-hmm. From deciding you wanted to go into politics and getting $10,000 check from your daddy, and there you are.
So We're going to have the same answer again. What can you do personally, Joe?
I think find Viktor Frankl's requirement to find what I'm good at. I don't want to say I was born to do something. However, I feel like I can define myself, and I am defining myself now as a teacher and someone who can has some experience at making people feel comfortable enough to learn. Maybe.
Why don't you? I can't fake it, do you?
I knew you had something going on.
Why can't you acknowledge the reality that I can see and experience with you and feeling good about being nice? You're a nice human being.
We both agree that we have the same training. We have the same mom. Be nice. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
That's true. We agree on that.
Uh-huh. So can you continue being nice no matter what?
No.
There's something going on with your brain.
If I get hungry enough and there's a piece of food there, Don, guess what's going to happen?
All right. All right. One or two more questions. Obama, what do you think of him?
Brilliant, profound,
Mm-hmm.
brave.
Yeah. Fidel Castro. There's a litmus test.
I think I just know too little about him. I guess he was a militant revolutionary,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously ran Cuba for many years. And I think militancy is not going to get us far nowadays, because the people with brain damage have a lot bigger guns than us people with frontal lobes that are developed, and we're less.
How do you resist without militancy? How do you manage to resist without militancy? All these people I'm talking about now are militant.
Let's see. You mentioned it earlier. It's called Jesus, Gandhi.
Gandhi.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Jesus, Tolstoy, Gandhi, King. Is that what you said?
Yeah, Martin Luther King. Yeah.
So.
One of the worst things you could say about these people was they were militants, and that means you must take them out.
Oh, I guess I meant militants with guns. I probably said the wrong word. Castro was in the hills with guns, I guess, and I'm thinking that strategy today would be less advisable in my thinking.
When is it ever advisable? When it's necessary to resist oppression and fight back.
When there's
Gandhi was not a total pacifist. That's a lie that people believe. He believed in nonviolence, but he wasn't a passive such that he just said, well, nothing I can do. He wouldn't do that.
Is that what pacifist means? Maybe. I remember a quote from him that I liked. It was called, "Even violence is better than cowardice."
Now we're getting into some awful discussions here. Let me see if I got another question for you. Israel and Palestine today, there's one for you.
What could I possibly have to say about that? What do you mean there's one for me? You know what my answer is?
What?
Try to get Don to smile one more time.
Uh-huh.
How's it going to work?
Yeah.
It worked. Okay, there we go.
What do you think
Solving all the problems.
What do you think of Netanyahu?
He's effective. I mean, what do you want me to say about him? He's effective, and his frontal cortex is that big.
Okay. All right. All right. You have any more thoughts on your own here? You want to ask me some questions? Because you've decided to not go any further.
It seems like you like to talk about spirituality a lot and not religion at the same time. I wonder if you could put a finer point on that.
I'm not sure what spirituality is, but I have a couple of ideas. And probably someone who is religious, extremely religious, can still have a sense of what people define as spirituality or spiritual. It's beyond that which is recognized and considered by the cortex and by the brain. It is probably more accurately defined as a feeling, an impression. Example, if I'm having a spiritual experience, something happens to me, my whole being, and then when I'm aware of something's going on, I say, there's something going on here. This may be a spiritual experience. I am no longer having this spiritual experience spiritual experience because I'm thinking now. And I'm not available to experience and see.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
A baby in a checkout line with his mom looks at me, and baby is really small, maybe months old, and looks at me and catches my eye, or we catch each other's eye. And he's pre-verbal a long way ago, but something happens, and he's tentative, and then a big grin.
Nice.
And then mom or dad, and nobody can figure what's going on, and no matter where I'm going in that store, he's following me. And when he catches my eye again, he smiles again.
Life is good.
That kind of experience is spiritual. Now, and what the key is, from the time I first have this beginning experience to the time when I'm evaluating it, considering it, using my cortex, it's a sense of timelessness. The key is timelessness. I'm experiencing something going on, and I'm not acutely aware. And time is suspended. I'm just feeling. I'm being, and that's what life's about.
Does another human being have to be involved for you to feel spiritual?
Excellent question. Yes, that's still a debate going on. A oneness that we achieve through meditation, for example, or some version of yoga. Then that's no one has decided to satisfy me whether you can have a spiritual experience solo or by yourself. Now we're going to stop because they're going to yell at me again. One more word from you?
I don't want to go.
Say something to the viewers out there. Any comment or thought you have about what's going
Well,
on?
Don, just thanks so much for having me on. I just enjoyed being next to you and sharing your warm personality. You know, people are always saying on TV, they're always saying, "Oh, I really enjoyed this." I always thought they were lying, but now I know it might be true.
Yourself?
I really enjoyed myself.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
I enjoyed you very much. Okay, thanks for watching one more time. Remember KFC, I love KFC. Not Kentucky Fried Chicken, Dr. Don's KFC. Kind, friendly, and charitable. Really, be kind. Yeah, and be friendly and be charitable. To you too.
What could go wrong?
And you too. And you too. Thanks again. See you next week. Bye-bye.